welcome to the next episode of the Existential Files. There you go, Matt. I did it.
There
again.
you go. You did it. You can do it all on your own.
Ooh.
Can I check we're recording?
We are still recording. I haven't touched anything.
Not that I'm being overly sceptical about these things, but you never know. So we're joined again today by Professor Chris French. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
In the last episode, we talked a bit about skepticism generally and nominalistic psychology and these ideas of the notion of the paranormal. In terms of, I'm going to kind of pick up, because it's something I've started to mention to Louie again, and it's something I spoke to you about some years ago. So in the previous episode, we talked about how yourself and Louie, for example, had started off as being believers, as it were, before looking at all this stuff in any depth, and then sort of studying psychology and then doing PhDs and so on, and becoming more skeptical. The project that I had sort of tentatively started a few years ago, and I paused on it for a variety of contextual reasons. I basically needed sort of to return to the real world, get a job and so on. Louie, real world, job, anything? No, never mind. And I was trying to explore whether or not a skeptic, a so-called skeptic like ourselves, could become a psychic. And it was in the context of the $1 Million Challenge. Now, back then, if I remember correctly, one of the kind of impetus behind it was that the $1 Million Challenge offered by the Randi Foundation, the James Randi Foundation, was going to come to an end. They were going to withdraw it because it had many years that they've been trying to sort of do this. And the aim was always to try and attract the big-name psychics out there who make these strong claims. And in fact, what had been happening over the years is lots of, anybody's and everybody's would sort of say, well, I think I'm psychic. I think I can do these weird things. Can I come and be tested? And they try to do some preliminary things and it falls to nothing. And it kind of took a lot of time. Now, you've had some involvement in testing some claimants of that nature. I mean, I know that one of the approaches is that they would, if somebody does make a claim, there's usually a preliminary test of some sort that you have to then undergo. And you've been involved in at least some of those. Is that right?
That's right, yeah, which is kind of quite a clever move on Randi's part, because obviously if, as Randi believes, paranormal forces don't really exist, then the claimants will never get past the preliminary stage, provided it's been a properly designed, properly controlled test. And that's certainly what's happened in my experience. But yes, we have tested quite a few people who've been kind of going for the $1 Million Challenge at the preliminary stage, and therefore they don't get any further.
So, and as far as we know...
Hello?
It's my error to try now.
Get your words in. Matt, shut up.
Yeah, shut your face. Right, so, no, because I dropped my device, as it were, and the headphones came out. So am I thinking that nobody has ever even passed a preliminary test?
Well, none of the ones that we've done. I can't speak for the full history of the $1 Million Challenge. I mean, sometimes I think Randi will allow people to just go straight for. Well, in fact, I know that because I've seen some TV programs where people have been going directly for the $1 Million Challenge. But more typically, they have to pass a preliminary test carried out by somebody that Randi knows and trusts, and they won't get past that stage.
And I was reminded that again, because a lot of these concepts, these things are done in when it's television, it's sort of filming stuff, and it's one of the reasons why the project kind of faltered, because we started off doing it, saying, "Oh, I'm going to just do this. It's quite interesting to do. May write about it." So it's kind of like a book project to begin with, and then because sort of we go, "Oh, we can make a TV show about it. We could make a film about it," and we kind of held off. And meanwhile, needs to get a job and other things happen, and kind of interest waned a little bit. And I think now if I return to it, it's going to go back to the basics of just doing stuff and maybe blogging about it and just seeing how it develops as a way of kind of just exploring these ideas, which I do find genuinely very interesting. But my mind then went to what you mentioned. Some people are occasionally tested, officially as it were, without having done a preliminary test. And I'm trying to stalk. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. But it's the guy who used to be described as the baby whisperer.
Yeah,
so you might remember the nice
Derek Ogilvie.
So I think he was tested as part of it, and there was again. You had and I think you were involved, if I remember correctly. And there was that challenge of trying to kind of explain that again, you're someone who very strongly believes they can. Essentially, he was describing someone who read the minds of children,
Mm-hmm. Or even babies.
Or what, sorry?
Or even babies before they could talk.
Well, there you go. Hence the baby whisperer.
Yeah.
And he's written books about that and so on. Yeah, of course, I don't believe he's a millionaire. I don't think he passed it. I think he had that challenge of trying to explain to someone, well, that the test suggests that what you claim doesn't seem to hold up. And that's quite a challenging thing to do.
I mean, all we can actually say, and we make this clear from the word go, is that, if you agree to come in and be tested under properly controlled conditions, and when we do that, we design the tests in collaboration with the claimant. There's absolutely no point in doing a test under conditions that the claimant says, well, I just can't do it under these conditions. You're just wasting everybody's time. So we work very hard to, you might be able to hear a very old dog get in the background getting up. Yes, and just, right. Sorry.
I was going to make a joke about that, by the way. What's the name of the dog?
Chasey. Yes.
Chasey.
Not Tracy, Chasey, as in.
Tracy. Okay.
I'm just hoping that she's very old and maybe rather incontinent, but she's just gone around
lovely.
The kitchen. I can't see her anymore. I'll just see how this goes.
Are we talking about the dog or yourself here, Chris?
We're talking about the dog.
Okay, yes.
I've forgotten where we were up to.
It was the baby whisperer and Derek that he was trying to explain that he didn't necessarily perform in the way he would have wanted to when being tested for the $1 Million Challenge.
Well, that's right. I mean, the way we tested it was, the way he normally operates, and I've actually seen him operating like this, he would claim that he could, as I said before, read babies' minds or children's, toddlers. And this would be often even before they could talk. And what was interesting was that what they seemed to be concerned about, these babies, would be things like the state of the family business, whether the family car needed a bit of attention, or there's a bit of a problem with the guttering up in the house. It seems strange for babies to be interested in this stuff. But of course, he would do his readings with the parents present, and they would be reacting to what he was saying. So to give him the benefit of the doubt, I think that what was going on there was unintentional cold reading. I don't know whether you can pick up these noises in the background.
It's fine, Chris. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm fascinated by it. What's he doing? It's a she or a he, the dog?
It's a she. It's a she.
So what's she doing? Is she knows?
She's just laying back on her bed again.
Okay.
She went for a quick drink of water, and then she's gone back and laying down.
I'm imagining a huge, great dog that's kind of like just falling down the floor and giving up on life.
She's fairly big. She's fairly big.
Can I ask you a question then, Chris?
Can
I? We've been discussing positive psychology over the last few episodes, and I don't really know anything about positive psychology, and I'm still suspicious of it. I mean, I wonder, have you got any? We were talking with Itai about positive psychology and various other people. Have you got any thoughts about positive psychology?
I again, like you, Louie, I would not claim to have any great in-depth knowledge of it. My suspicion is that maybe it's a bit overhyped. But then again, I'm a cynical bastard. I would say that, wouldn't I? I think that certainly it can be helpful for people. I mean, mindfulness is the current craze. And as far as I am aware, there is some good empirical evidence to suggest that it can genuinely be helpful in certain contexts. I suspect that it's probably overhyped. I mean, typically these things are not panaceas that can help everybody with every problem. But as I say, not having looked at it in any depth, I wouldn't be prepared to push that point of view too strongly.
And that's why. So Louie and I have sort of spoken a bit about it, because I think part of it is clarifying to some extent what positive psychology is and is not. But I think you're right in terms of as it's developing and evolving, then and how it's then interpreted by critics, the media, and again what the claims are that's being made, because a bit like the sort of paranormal industry, there is money to be made out of these ideas. And the media are interested in this. If there's something about either ghosts or telepathy or the stuff about the world which is beyond our normal everyday experience, it takes us away from that mundanity, and that's fascinating telly type stuff. And similarly, the idea that there are simple things we can do which may help our happiness. We all want to be happy, don't we? Surely that's the whole point of life, isn't it? Is it not? And therefore, there's an industry based around, there are things you can then do that will improve that, maybe. So yeah, and I think again, and also some people will see it as being, it's about positive thinking, and that's not what positive psychology would be. But so I think again, it's a bit like parapsychology in the fact that you're dealing with how the media deals with these kinds of ideas, and how you still try and get this critical approach across to recognise that there could be something of interest in this stuff, but there is a value to also bring your own critical faculties to explore it. You've got to make up your own mind in the end whether it's something worth looking at, rather than just being taken what you're fed.
I want to say, step away from the doobie Ron Hubbard. Chris, if I could just, in the last few minutes, I've been asking
Fuck you, Louie! Fuck you! Fuck you, Louie! Why step away from the doobie though? Sorry, you're going to start pushing the buttons. Why the fuck? What the fuck are you talking? Just because you haven't got a fucking clue what you're fucking talking about.
In the last...
Fuck you! You know that if you push that button, I will start getting fucking emotional about it, and you can fuck up. There's nothing I've just said back then that required that kind of response. So fuck you! Well, fuck you! Anyway, Chris.
In the last few minutes, I just want to ask, because I've been asking different people what their take is, like Itai, for example.
Fucking hell. I'm just going to echo. I'm going to say, fucking hell, for fuck's sake, throughout everything you say.
I will be editing this bit out anyway. But I've been asking various people, what their take is on the meaning of life, whether they believe in God, whether they believe, what their take is. And, I know I've asked you this privately, Chris, but is there anything you want to say? I know it's very briefly. Do you want to respond to that? Or not? You can say, no, Louie, I don't want to talk about that. That's fine.
I think we talked about it before, Louie. And, at the end of the day, I guess that... as I said to you, when you've gone through... Well, you're probably still in it, for all I know. The kind of, it's all pointless, it's meaningless, it's, there's no point to it. I think you're probably right. On the other hand, you have to kind of fool yourself into thinking that there are aspects of life that do make it worth living. Otherwise, you're going to be a miserable bastard. And therefore...
You surprise me. Surely Louie not a miserable bastard.
A lot of it is about just kind of making the most of each moment that you can make the most of. What I think... What's the alternative to life? Non-existence, maybe it's okay. Well, I was non-existent once and probably will be again at some point. But, actually having the chance to consciously experience the universe, to take joy and pleasure from, even if we say that ultimately they are meaningless experiences, but hey, they were fun while they lasted, I'd sooner have that. I'd take that rather than never having had the chance to take them. So I guess, ultimately, in kind of very, very fundamental terms, I think you are absolutely right. It's all meaningless. There is no purpose.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, Chris. Again, I'm asking people these questions, and I did have a quote, in quote, existential break about 10 years ago, or whatever. But I'm pretty much over it now. Boo hoo hoo. But I think it's interesting for our listeners to hear, what other, intelligent people think about the universe. And sometimes I think we hide that, our understanding. And I think just sometimes people just like to hear what other people believe or what other people think about these things. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm an atheist, as you know. I don't think there's any kind of greater purpose there. On the other hand, I don't think that actually having a theistic view of the universe actually is necessary or helpful for me personally.
So,
and on that bombshell,
have we lost you then, Matt? Sorry.
I'm doing work. I'm trying to upload a lecture for something tomorrow, so I thought I'd better do that. We will say
thank you to
which we've done something very helpful there
for joining us.
Yes, thanks, Chris. And let me just have not say the final word, but I want to come back on to some of those things. So absolutely, and whilst essentially the whole podcast series emanates out of Louie's and mine, and in many ways Louie's kind of wrestle with the existential questions, but I think all of us, we come from different perspectives. And just to kind of return to why I'm interested in positive psychology and the bigger questions that we explore on this podcast, and the philosophical questions, and is no matter what your worldview is, doesn't matter whether you believe there's some point to it or something happens after you die or whatever else, is we're all faced with waking up each morning, having an experience that day, whether it be staying in bed, dozing, getting up, doing a job which makes sense or doesn't make sense on the face of it, earns money, doesn't earn money on the face of it, have kids, not have kids, whatever. And then at some point, that will stop, i.e. you die. And we don't know what happens after that. We can work on the assumption it's all oblivion, or some people work on the assumption that, oh, it's heaven, it's reincarnation, you ghost, whatever. The only things that are given, really, you wake up each morning and one day you won't. To me, positive psychology in its broadest sense, and therefore psychology, philosophy, all this kind of stuff, helps us give something to those days. We can either imbue it with meaning, and then it could be deluded, it could be giving meaning that's not really there, it could be exploring some hidden meaning, wherever it might be. But we're faced with those ideas of what is worth doing. And therefore, one of the things we've explored in the discussions about positive psychology is it starts with this idea of maybe looking at psychological ideas that help us explore those aspects that do make life worth living. Louie and I have even discussed, well, is life worth living? Existentially, one might argue that it isn't. There's no real point to it. Yet we're still faced with the decision of either to get up and do something, and that could include killing ourselves, or doing something that has some feeling of worth and value and enjoyment and so on. To me, that's why positive psychology has a role to play in it. It's not about, trying to use terms that Louie's used, transhumanism, to eliminate pain or make sure everybody has a happy life. It's not about that. It really isn't. So that's why, yes, be skeptical about everything, be critical about everything that people bring these ideas to you, yet also don't just dismiss them straight away because, it sounds a bit like Scientology, so fuck that. Well, to me, this whole fucking podcast is about exploring the big fucking questions that we face every fucking day, such as what's worth doing? Why is it worth listening to fucking podcasts? Why do we bring Chris back on again to listen to what he's doing for his research and his ideas and his beliefs and thoughts? Because it's inherently interesting and it may allow us to discover something we didn't already know. So fuck you.
And on that bum note, thank you very much, Chris, for joining us again. Thank you. Bye.
Good talking to you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chris. Bye.
So you had to hear that, Chris?
Yeah, well,
we do this. We vacillate between these.
Also we've had so prior to the ones last week, which didn't get recorded, and this isn't dig at all, because for fuck's sake, like you say, you're doing all of this. I turn up, spout some shit, and you're doing all the fucking stuff in terms of recording it, editing it, and uploading it. So I can fucking get that. The ones before that, we did, I thought, 2 really good emotive podcasts, and they didn't record. But to me, that captured this idea of this is what we're fucking about. We're trying to, that's great that you were honest about my approach. This is what I actually believe, because it's so much more interesting than we usually go, let's just we sort of go along playing these roles that we do. And I'm constantly questioning the roles that I play. So even today, this morning, I had an hour before speaking to Louie, before we speak to the guy before, Oren, and I thought, well, what should I be doing? I should really go and upload this thing. I should record this for work. I should be doing that. I need to go into email. And after a while, you start saying, oh, for fuck's sake, why bother?
Yeah.
So I'm constantly asking these questions of, what's my priority? What should I be doing today? Do I prioritize that over that? Should I be doing stuff that I enjoy doing, or something that I'm paid to do? Or, and they're reasonable questions, no matter what your fucking worldview is. Because so many people just go through stuff without really thinking about it. So that's why I think, I don't know, I'm rambling now. So fucking hell. Fuck it. Let you go do your work now. What are you going to do today, Chris? What's your real day ahead? Is it teaching? Is it writing? Is it...
I'm hoping to try and get around to doing a bit of writing today, but we will see. We'll see
one.
How the day pans out. All right, mate. Good to talk to you.
Hopefully speak soon.
Yep, yeah. Thanks, Chris. Thanks.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Appreciate it. And you. Bye-bye.
Bye.